Okay, so earlier today, Mo Farrah has stated that he is now not being coached by Alberto Salazar anymore. He's now being coached by Paula Radcliffe and her husband, who is called. Let me check. I'm going to double check this quickly. I'm going to check his name. Simply because just to get the facts correct before people whinge at me. I don't know and give me a load of abuse again, because I heard that last night on the video and comments were deleted. So we're going to get Paula Radcliffe up. Because she was coached by her husband in marathon running, and this is where it's key, because let's have a look. So she's a world famous, and she's also banged the drum for anti-doping, because Mo Farah's coach is under the spotlight for doping allegations, and there are allegations, and okay, Paula Radcliffe has won London Marathon 3 times, the New York Marathon 3 times, and the Chicago Marathon. So she's won big things. She retired a couple of years ago. Now, right, let's have a look at. She has fought hard for anti-doping, and there was allegations that she fought hard, but there was one or two in the last couple of years. Anyway, Gary Loch, who's also a long distance runner, they've now decided. I had to get that right. I had to double check that. Wasted a minute and a half here. Anyway, but she and her husband are now going to be coaching Mo Farah. And she's fought very hard for clean athletics, but she refuses to release her blood data because she believes, that's between them and the doping authorities. And I'm not going to go into the ins and outs of the accusations of this and that, but she's been banging the drum for clean athletics for quite some time. Now, Mo Farah's coach, he's been with him since 2011, and a lot's happened in that time frame. There's been several doping scandals, the Russian state-sponsored being one of them. In the aftermath of that, in 2014, 2015, there were rumours about his coach Salazar. Someone went to Panorama, they investigated. US anti-doping, obviously seeing that, and other investigative journalists sniffing around this training camp, thought, right, we're going to have to launch an investigation now. And they did. The interim report was leaked, so someone obviously wanting to make a few dollars leaked it to the press and onto a Russian-based website that was banging the drum to say that we are guilty, we admit that, but other nations are too. So there's a lot of scandal going around here, and there are things coming out that are not looking good. So Mo Farah has decided to change coaches and focus on his marathon running. Paula Radcliffe and Gary Loch are probably two of the best people to go to. At the end of the day, they've had their own little, not scandal, but suspicions. But she's always fought for clean athletics, but she does encourage athletes not to release their blood data and their medical data publicly. They should, again, that's a contentious issue. Some athletes are for releasing it, some aren't. Transparency. It's all down to, it will come to a point where the rules change. But she's now retired, so in freedom of information request, we could request it. I'm not going to go into the ins and outs of that either. This is some of the background. Anyway, Mo Farah decided to change coach. It is unfortunate that he, this is a black mark hanging over him. This is a black cloud. The investigation's ongoing. At this time, he's passed every drugs test. But you've got to be a bit sceptical, and I'm trying to be as impartial as possible. Paula Radcliffe and her husband are a good thing for the marathon training, because they've been there. They're both long distance runners. Her husband trained her to win so many marathons at the highest level and medals in the Olympics. We get that. That's not a problem. What has undermined the whole situation is the media in various countries around the world. And I'm going to focus on the British media. For the last couple of years, the British media has unfortunately undermined the situation of certain athletes. And, okay, Mo Farah, up until today, has been based in America. And that instantly raises suspicions from some quarters. I couldn't give a rat's arse where an athlete or athletes or teams or wherever are based. I'd be very happy to see more British sportsmen play sport abroad in club sport like rugby and football, and expose themselves to new skills. I'm more than happy to. I'm not against foreign nationals coming over here to play sport or be involved in sport. I'm worried about the numbers and whether the local youth are getting a chance, but I'm more than happy for rugby union, rugby league, and football and cricket, which are global games, ice hockey, which are global sports, for the best talent to play in the best leagues, and for young talent to be developed wherever they get developed, as long as they represent their country and are proud to do so. I have no issue, none. What I have issue with is UK athletics clearly okayed Mo Farrah to train in Oregon with this coach before the London 2012 Olympics. And the London 2012 Olympics, there's been a lot of things going on a bit in the media about athletes failing drugs tests from Beijing, London, Rio, during the Winter Olympics 2006, the 2010 Winter Olympics in Vancouver, Sochi, and now we've got the Olympics coming up in South Korea in 3 months. So going back even to Salt Lake City in 2002 and Athens in 2004 and Sydney, we're going back as far back as Sydney. Some of these athletes, retrospectively failing drugs tests. And we know what happened at Atlanta when and drugs failed was there. So we're going really, and now we're going. 20 years ago, I don't really care about 20 years ago. Half the athletes competing now were probably were kids or weren't even alive, and back then doping was so widespread. It was just everyone's doing it. Those who are clean, that's more fool them, and that was the attitude, and that's got to change. But the media has got a part to play in this. They have banged the drum, and yes, British athletes have failed drugs tests for recreationals and performance enhancing this year. I've made videos on it. They're up on my channel. Please watch them if you wish. You don't have to, but you can if you want to. And I've researched those information for them. I just look at for Zach Hardacre and for one of them, and what's the Scottish, and John Hardy. They're the two that have failed sportsmen who failed cocaine for cocaine use. Just look them up if you want to. You don't have to, but it gives an idea that drugs in sport is more than just steroids and performance enhancers and using TUEs illegally. There's bigger things there. So yeah, that's an issue that's currently going on at the moment. He's decided to change coach for various reasons, including personal reasons. That's fine. People are gonna be going, why didn't he, as soon as these allegations came out, why didn't he change coach or ditch his coach 2014, 2015 when this first all emerged? And he's been very loyal to Salazar. The issue is, some of the paperwork that's been released doesn't look good, and it's been leaked, and it's not the final report, and there will be time for the final report to be assessed, but it's not looking good. And in the wake of Lance Armstrong and Marion Jones and the peptide scandal in the AFL and the NRL in Australia, it's not. Others are advising him, like his manager advising him and his family. They've got to look and go, right, the statement he's released today saying he's homesick, they're trying to avoid questions from the media about his relationship with Salazar. And they haven't done a good job. In my eyes, it just looks like a little bit of let's not talk about this. I'd much rather honesty come out of sportsmen's mouths rather than the corporate line. Because he's got sponsors as well. He's got his endorsements from various companies. And it is important that the truth does come out. Hopefully one day, when he writes his biography or autobiography or gets it ghostwritten, he tells the truth, 100% the truth. As far as I know, he hasn't lied. He has taken these media attacks against Salazar personally, and some of the media headlines haven't helped. If the investigative journey is a bit by Panorama and others, because I know other journalists have sniffed around doping stories for a long time, be it Four Corners in Australia dealing with the peptide scandal in sport down there, and Stephen Dank, and linking it into other allegations of misuse of steroids and performance enhancers in other sports, which they did, and I've watched that documentary, and it's very, very good. And it's unfortunate that certain sportsmen were hung out to dry because their coaches or their teams allowed them to be doped, and they weren't aware of what was going on necessarily. So there's grey areas in this, and I've gone slightly off topic, and I want to keep this video as short as possible. I've already hit 10 minutes, and I was going to try and keep it a bit shorter than this, but there's a lot to talk about. So I might do a follow-up video to this. And I'd be more than happy to answer your questions. If you want to put your comments and say why you think that he is guilty or isn't guilty, or why you support him or don't support, that is fine. This channel is open for informed, reasonable debate. I'm happy, as long as there's no like abusive language, it's fine. I'm a bit also worried that UK athletics, didn't do background checks a little bit. They've obviously okayed a British athlete to train abroad. I think there are discussions in place. Now I want to hear from track and field athletes and athletes who have trained abroad, or even if they've gone to college in America. I would rather have the discussion with someone who has competed, even at amateur level. So I know I've competed rugby at amateur level, and at amateur level we don't always get drugs tested, unless it's for a national, a regional. You don't get drugs tested at every level of sport, which is an issue. There are gaps in testing. There are gaps when he's back in the. Mo Farrah has stated in his statement that he does come home when he's in the off season and visits friends and family in the UK, and then goes on a bit of holiday. He doesn't get drugs tested on his holiday necessarily because he's not in a fixed location. You can't tell the drugs test people, I'm definitely going to be in my family house in London or my friend's house in London. There are gaps. And we've seen it in football with players missing tests. Rio Ferdinand back in 2002, I believe, he missed a couple of drugs tests and got a ban from football. He wasn't found guilty of doping, he just missed his tests. And his excuses were pretty poor, but he got, there are ways around the system. So there's that to talk about. But he decided to change coach, and that's the issue here of the story originally. But you've got to look at the background of the coach he's leaving to the background of the coaching staff he's joining. Both have been dogged at some point by doping claims. And Paula Radcliffe basically only got dogged by the doping claims because she refused. And bear in mind, she's actually been on an altitude training course with Mo Farrah in the past. Oh yes, they went on a summer training camp together. They are linked, and this is years ago. But they did go on an altitude training course together. Just to get the altitude training is a very vital part of long distance running and fitness and training schedules. And you'll see a lot of athletes training at altitude in East Africa, the Rocky Mountains in America, the Alps. Where my aunt lives, a lot of the football teams from the Serie A and the Swiss League will do a lot of their training in the Alps. And you will see cycling teams, and you'll see triathletes, and you'll see a lot of, even in downhill skiers and bobsleighers in the summer will be cycling and running, or just doing mountain walking as part of their training program. So I've seen athletes, like the Italian Olympic rowing team rowed on the lake because it was at altitude. It was a lake long enough for them to row on, and it was sheltered from high winds, so it was a very calm lake. Altitude training is vital, and the fact that she has trained with Mo Farrah before, and she's had allegations of doping, and all she refused to do was release her medical data publicly. She believes that medical data is patient confidentiality. And she also says to other athletes, don't be forced to do things that you don't want to do, as long as you're clean. Yeah. At the same time, she's got nothing to hide, she says. So, I don't know. I'm open to debate, but I know athletics has got a serious problem with doping. So I sincerely hope that Mo Farrah is clean, but at the same time the allegations against his ex-coach are not very good. They are serious. The media has a big part to play in this, and how they report it fairly and impartially, and unfortunately they've gone a little bit over-eager into everyone else is dirty, we're clean, let's get British athletes medals, and certain British athletes and sportsmen have failed drugs tests, and they're not clean. The British media needs to, and the world media in general needs to be a bit more impartial and report correctly. The investigative side, brilliant. The actual, let's sensationalise it, not so good, not helping Mo Farah's cause or other athletes' cause. And that's where we've got to strike a balance. Anyway, thank you very much for watching. I know I've dragged this on to 15 minutes, but it's a bit shorter than some of my previous attempts, so I'll have another video for you soon. Please like and subscribe, and please place your comments below.